Hi, I'm BZ Rieger, and I'm doing another in my series of choosing fear or knowing. And I moved outside because this this one I'm going to keep short, but it's touching on the whole enchilada of everything that's the layers. So the layers of what's really going on. So many people, if they went to school, and regardless of what country they're in, they went and they studied history. So that history that you would have seen in books, and of course it always changes. The what's the motto? Whoever wins the war writes the history. And since all wars have always been started, funded, organized, and intended by the same group, the upper middle management will say of the controllers of the planet, the saying beings have always been writing uh, and rechanging, reshifting to fit their needs, the history books. But I just wanted to use that as a frame of reference. So everything that you have read, have studied, have been taught, um, from uh, how man fits into the evolutionary chain, to Darwin, to um, the time of Jesus, to Babylon, to all of that, is what we would call the known history. So the company line approved, although they keep moving that line, history. And to understand, to at least glimpse the layers of what's really going on, it's helpful to widen your aperture a bit to um, realize that there's before the known history, way, 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 way before the known history. So that's just a frame of reference, just a little dot to expand your frame of reference. And what many beings right now are talking about what's really going on um, behind, or in addition to the coronavirus and the chaos that the lamestream media has um, swirled everybody up into, and people have done it themselves. Everybody is who is in a swirl and who is in feeling of chaos and perceived um, disruption and chaos is complicit in that, because it's a choosing point. And so it's not good or bad, it's just what they've chosen. So they're playing a role, they're playing a part in that, and their energy that they're feeding that chaos and fear is helping to sustain it. So if you don't like it, then shift your focus and withdraw your energy, which is considerable, from that. So just a few simple things that um, in a very complex subject, and I'm kind of floundering because I have really no idea how to take it, and even in just a like from a million galaxy wide view, how to just give a short bite of it. Maybe the simplest is to say that everything that we are taught, programmed to, indoctrinated into, and I mean the United States and every other country, is not so. And there are bits of of truth of how things actually work, but mostly it's inverted. So every system and structure and sector of everything is completely controlled by um, the rulers of the planet, the ones that have designed and hold up the false construct, which is an inverted nature. So everything that we've been told, like I said, with the exception of some truths, which are right side up, so to say, everything is, the way that it really works is an inversion. So for example, if you think of the Justice Department or the justice system, um, these days with General Michael Flynn and a number of other things, people are saying, well, that's not right. That's, there's a two-tier justice system. Yes, but that's only a tiny part of it. Or people are saying, well, um, how come some people there's justice for and some people there's not? Um, because that's part of the illusion. That's part of the theater. The simple, Keegan's doing cartwheels. The simple way to phrase it is that the reason people are more and more noticing this, and if you've ever been involved and been come aboard their ship, because it's admiralty law, in a court of law, crossing, when you cross those little gates there, you've come aboard the ship. And so unless you've been involved in that, most people don't understand. They think there's right and wrong, and the bad guys go before the magistrate, the court, and grievances are decided, and there's a fair outcome, or at least a kind of a fair outcome, and justice is served. That couldn't be further from the truth. So right now there are all these catalysts. The case with Heather and Randy in Tennessee purported, and with General Flynn, with all of the things where there are obviously egregious bending, breaking, totally thwarting of the law, and such with 33,000 emails and a whole host of other things. Those are unfolding because it's part of the unwinding and unbinding. They are essential because they're catalysts to get people to notice, to pay attention, to stop and really look for a moment, to unwind and unbind all of that. And the beauty of those, I'm thinking particularly, there's many cases out there, but I'm thinking particularly of the one with Heather and Randy, and the One People's Public Trust, and unwinding and unbinding all of that, and General Michael Flynn's case, is that with the catalyst that the role that they play, and the dramatic unwinding and binding, they will actually, those two I feel are the big ones that will implode the system from within. So the system doesn't work the way we're told it does, and there is no actual justice system, at least not in the way where, like I said, there's right and wrong, and you can go and litigate your differences, and that's all a false construct. But in order to bring down the false construct and unwind and unbind it, and you've heard some information just recently with the Fed and the moves that President Trump has made to actually now control the Fed. He's we'll say the chairman of the Fed right now because of the moves that have been made, and those, like what Michael Flynn's case is doing and what Heather and Randy's case is doing, is from within. So in other words, playing the game by their rules, the system is being imploded from within. So full transparency will come out, a full, true integration of what really has been going on all along will come out, and using their rules, their inverted construct matrix that they set up in the justice system, these different cases will actually, playing by their rules, which are not what we're told they are, will bring it all down and will unfold it all for people to see. So the justice system is just one of them. the education system, absolutely the financial system, and the financial slavery system, which is the biggest headline below the fold. Um, but anything about education, about medicine, about religion, about science, anything, every system, every sector, um, every structure. So when I say structure, that could be a community structure, it could be physical structures, it could be the structure of justice, it could be the whole educational structure, it could be manufacturing structures, it could be obviously the financial structures, it could be the social structures and the evolutionary structure. So that encompasses quite a lot of things. And then there's each individual being and how they hold their own structure, right? Their own unified structure within that. And that's another part of the false construct of having everyone believe that they're small, that they're just this, little humanoid type being that is born and perhaps gets lucky and has success, maybe, gets the Ferrari or the brass ring, or one of those different kind of euphemisms, and strikes it rich, and their ship comes in, um, all of those different things, and then they have this lavish lifestyle, or maybe they hit it big and they're a star on in Hollywood, or in theater, however, whatever that is they're into, or an artist that someone discovers their work, and uh, you know they make the shoots of the light fantastic and make their business there. So all of those things I just mentioned don't work. And a politician, making the rise, like Obama, who all of a sudden was, kind of an unknown person in a young coming to the House, and then a Senator Obama, and then all of a sudden the rising star in the Democratic Party, and lo and behold, he's the first African American to get elected as president of the United States. And it was a absolutely scripted overnight success. So that's how all of these things work. And to get high up in the different systems and structures, whether it's in finance, in school systems, in local or regional or state or federal justice systems, or the political system, any of that, you have to play by the rules, which most people have no idea that those rules actually exist. And it's a serious game. Maybe what I'll do is wrap up just on this, because some people know exactly what I'm talking about, and a lot of people have no idea. And what I just said is just I should have a tinfoil hat on, and it's a conspiracy theory. It is a conspiracy. It absolutely is a conspiracy. And a conspiracy means that there's multiple parties who are conspiring together to lay out a plot and a plan and have it unfold in a certain way. And the country's mayor, Rudy Giuliani, would say, yeah, it's racketeering too. And that's one of the ways that they will bring all of this down, using their rules, the game of the false construct and their false, judicial system. They'll bring that all down. Now, there are now beings within the systems who are waking up, and the light is flowing in, and they're stepping in to do their part, their mission right now, to be a real whistleblower, to be a real infuser of light, to invert the inverted system so it's right side up, and then it can be revealed and unwound and unbound. So if you're just new to it, it's a real head scratcher. And I've just talked about the simple things right now and just a very cursory understanding. The planet and the human race, humanity, is far, far older than the known history would dictate to us, on the order of millions of years older than that, at the very least. And the fact that it was told, we've just gone to the moon, although purportedly only once, and space is uncharted, and oh, by the way, there's nobody else out there. That couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, there's a whole lot of other beings and species and civilizations and clans, and look at Star Trek, look at Star Wars. All of those are giving you indications of really what the multiverses look like. And we're from the stars, actually. And things, there are star beings here, of the very, very wonderful, open-hearted sort, and of the very, very vilest sort. Although it's their way that they move in their existence, so it's not at all vile to them. It's just the way it is. But to humanity, it is vile. So all of those things are true, are so. And when I say that what's really going on, especially if you don't have a frame of context and any indication of just what is so on the planet, and you're thinking that the coronavirus is really stressing you out and freaking you out and worrying you because everything is like disappeared and gone crazy. And that's why that's why we've all had the call to do these various conversations in our own way, and why I have continual push to do these, is because if that's your frame of reference, even if you're thinking, oh, I don't know, something seems a little weird here with the coronavirus and the responses and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be really unsettled simply because of the speed of change, the speed of reveal, the speed of transparency that is unfolding right now. And hurtling would be a just barreling down on you, on all of the beings. And Q is right in that respect. Nothing can stop it, because source, all that is, much different than God of any various religion, because that is a huge subject, but it's part of the false construct, actually part of the rulers of the planet, Anu, and that's a whole long story. Christ consciousness, however, is not an illusion. And if your thought of God in that sense is with even if you would call it in a different way, but that feeling that you have within you is of absolute love and the Christ consciousness vibration, that is absolutely true. And that is a tangible vibration, and the river of love is a simple way to say it. And that is what comes directly from source, the source of all that is, with no religious affiliations, no party affiliations, no dogma, no guy with a white beard sitting in a chair, up in the clouds, or whatever religion through any of the other kind of pictographs that may be of that. Um, just love absolute. So neutrality, and no vengeful, and no reproach or castigation, or throwing you out of the garden, or um, 1,000 lashes, or any of those kinds of things. That couldn't be further from the truth. And that's part of the inverted false construct, and part of the control system, part of the fear-based control system. So good and bad, categorizing, better way to categorize it is open-hearted or closed-hearted, narrow consciousness aperture and focus in what you observe and perceive and how you flow in the world, and a wide open consciousness, so that you understand that you are part of the one, of all. The entire fabric of existence is still a small way to describe it, but it gives you a little bit of scope. And you are a singularity. And that's a very simple way to describe it, because you're multidimensional. So there is no, the construct we have of time, which is another false construct, of being linear. So this conversation is happening now, then I'll record it and post it online in the future, and then someone may come along and watch it, and that's even more in the future. From a very strictly linear, tight, narrow aperture of consciousness, that's a correct description of the linear flow. But whereas we are in a linear embodiment, in this body, and the density of the linear plane has been quite dense, quite heavy, quite tight and constricted, and very narrow consciousness aperture, that has been shifting for quite some time. And the pace at which that has been shifting has been picking up faster and faster and faster, which is why you're seeing the bleed throughs of something's not quite right, or you used to remember something one way and it seems to be totally different. So those are just little glimpses of that. But all of this seemingly disjointed, perhaps it is, little conversation here is just to give you an insight on the layers of what's really going on. And why should you give a hang about any of that? Because it's all being revealed right now. It's all coming down. All that you thought was real, you thought you knew, you thought was the way things worked, you thought that you were born and you went to school, and maybe you had a relationship, and maybe you had different jobs, or maybe different things. Yeah, you were actually doing those things, but not for the reasons you thought you were, and not in a flow and a system and a structure and a social characterization and a rhythm of life that was described in any way that was even a wee bit accurate to what really is so, and the design. And that without your permission, actually without your conscious tacit permission, you were hooked into, you were tricked into, to some extent. That might be one way to put it. And in the multi-dimensional sense, you participated wholeheartedly, full-throatedly, because you're a creator being and you're eternal, and you are a fractal of source going forth to know source and have experiences on all range of things, and then to be able to come back into the knowing, the awakeness, the widened aperture of consciousness, and remember the truth of who you are, um, and unwind and unbind everything that you had just created. And we've done this for eons, and will since we're eternal. Um, but right this moment, this game, if one would call it that, or this experiment, or this designed construct, there's many ways that one could hold it, is coming to a close. And it the good news is that we played it out so deliciously, so beautifully, so in such an in-depth way that many beings, perhaps most, forgot completely. They were so good at their roles and so good at mixing it up and so good at the constriction and depravity and, joy in what they thought was the pinnacle of, blessed life, although compared to what's true for who they really are, just a little bit of happiness there. We played it so well that we've taken it to the nth degree, to all of the permutations of that. And so in this battle, which from a linear perspective is so, although from a multidimensional perspective, it's completed, it's been unwound, and we're finishing it up. And we'll talk more about that in smaller bites. But so that's why it's important to give a hang about it, because it's happening. And think of a scene set on a big movie theater, and you're already seeing it now. Schools are closing, and this is happening, and that's happening, and where you could used to do this, you can't do that, and there's fear, and there seems to be, this huge health boogie monster and everything else. And yes, for all of that, and there's a whole lot else going on. And so again, I asked the question, that someone is asking, well, why should I care? Why should I give a hang about that? Because everything that you thought you knew will not go back to the way it was, because that has come to a close. That play has won its time, run its course, run its time on Broadway, and the theater on that play is going dark. And unlike some good shows, never never to be put into production again, because we've done it spectacularly. So that's the good news. So maybe to wrap up, and not to be alarming you, but the speed at which things are changing will speed up. Right now we're actually going very slowly, and the rapidity of how fast data comes at you, and how quickly things are being revealed of, in solid, touchable, tangible ways that you can see, of things that people have done, of systems falling apart and crumbling, of amazing, magical, wondrous, delicious, expansive, just absolutely full on love flow coming at you, can be perhaps overwhelming, especially without a frame of reference, and a little bit of context to what's going on. So I'll play with how to navigate that, or at least some tips on that. But to leave this conversation Stay in your heart. And when your head is going, oh my gosh, and you're worried, take a deep breath and breathe into all of that and let go of the mind spinning for a moment. You can pick it back up if you choose. And that's how you will begin to navigate the layers. And that's how you will give yourself just a moment of sanity, of catching your breath, of feeling centered for a moment. And look around, because there are millions of us beings who are absolutely ready to help you. Lend a hand, just a smile, whatever it is, to help you wake up to what you know is going on, because you're connected to your soul and to source. And where it may seem like it, you're not missing anything. And you're not small. And you actually have all of the knowledge, all of the knowing, all of the resources to navigate through this in a beautiful way, and in a way that will give you as an eternal being amazing opportunity for expansion and soul growth, and to come together in co-creation with all of us around to build the new earth, to anchor fully and build and materialize the new expanded vibrational landscape that we will inhabit on this planet, on Gaia. So relax, stay in your heart. I love you.